Hello viewers, I'm your host Uzma Jafri with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show with a significant verdict of International Court of Justice ICJ that ordered stay on the execution of Indian national Kulbhushan Jadhav, convicted for spying. We have a report.
In a setback for Islamabad, the International Court of Justice ICJ stayed the execution of Indian national Kulbhushan Jadhav, a former naval officer facing death on allegations of spying in Pakistan. The court also ordered providing consular access to him.
Under the present circumstances, it is appropriate for the court to order that Pakistan shall take all measures at its disposal to ensure that Mr. Jadhav is not executed pending the final decision in these proceedings, and shall inform the court of all the measures taken in implementation of the present order.
The 46-year-old was arrested in March last year from Balochistan province bordering Iran. He was held guilty by the country's military court of spying and subversive activities. India says that Jadhav was kidnapped from Iran, where he was running a business after retiring from the Navy.
I think the provisional relief which India has been granted on its request, it constitutes an essential first step in ensuring justice for Mr. Jadhav. We hope that it will help remedy the egregious violations of Jadhav's rights and also the violations of international convention by Pakistan in this matter.
In Jadhav's hometown Mumbai, celebrations broke out soon after the verdict. Jadhav's friends expressed hope he would soon be united with them.
We are going to have sweets distributed and a lot of things we are going to have. After a few minutes we will be saying all our friends will come together and we are just going to enjoy this. This is a victory. India, thanks.
ICJ's verdict not only brought a major relief for Jadhav's family and friends, but a major diplomatic victory of India over Pakistan.
Legal experts in India say that the verdict exposed bogus trial conducted by Pakistani military court to sentence Jadhav. We are now joined by Vikas Singh, a noted lawyer of India. Mr. Vikas, do you see ICJ verdict as a diplomatic victory for India?
It's a huge moment for India, and internationally we stand completely vindicated, and it also establishes how Pakistan is not following the rule of law as far as trial of Indians are concerned. And right from the beginning, when the hearing was on, I had in fact commented on one of the channels that the fact that they argued on the confessional statement itself showed that they were very weak on the issue of jurisdiction. And confessional statement recorded during custody, military custody, does not evoke any sympathy globally. And this victory had to come. As far as the Vienna Convention is concerned, the only argument that they had was with regard to the bilateral treaty. Now, the bilateral treaty was not a treaty to substitute the Vienna Convention. It was more like a treaty to supplement the Vienna Convention. And the bilateral treaty had not even been filed with the United Nations, meaning clearly that it was never intended to supersede the Vienna Convention. So it's an emphatic victory for India, and I'm very happy that this order has come in our favor.
Will Pakistan now allow consular access to Mr. Jadhav?
Well, that was the real issue as to whether under the Vienna Convention consular access was a right of Jadhav or not. And since that, of course, that's on the merits of the matter. And non-denial of consular access is the ground for the intervention by the International Court of Justice, because the Vienna Convention itself provides that if any of the consenting states were to not grant consular access as provided in the convention, then that itself will be a ground for a member state or a consenting state to move the International Court of Justice. And that is what India did successfully and got this very good order from the ICJ.
Thank you, Mr. Vikas. Now we talk about China's ambitious One Belt, One Road OBOR project, launched in 2013. The project aims to revive the old Silk Road linking China with Europe. Beijing recently hosted One Belt, One Road summit and invited representatives from 60 countries. However, there is growing resentment against the project as it fails to fulfill territorial, environmental and other international norms.
Beijing hosted a major gathering to earn support for the One Belt, One Road infrastructure development project linking the old Silk Road with Europe. The project is a manifestation of China's growing geopolitical ambitions. A brainchild of President Xi Jinping, OBOR has now been under development for 4 years, spanning 68 countries and accounting for up to 40% of global GDP. China's push to take the world leadership has come at a time when a strong anti-globalization wave is sweeping the Western world that is showing a growing tendency of returning to more protectionist regimes.
Es ist ja schon so, dass die deutschen Unternehmen zahlreiche Beschwerden haben über das, wie es hier geht. Und wir kritisieren zum Beispiel auch als deutsche Regierung ja immer, dass es die Verpflichtung zu Joint Ventures gibt, im Automobilbereich zum Beispiel oder in der Pharmaindustrie, dass das etwas ist, was wir nicht wollen. Wir möchten gerne, dass deutsche Unternehmen genauso auf dem chinesischen Markt tätig sein können, wie chinesische Unternehmen in Deutschland Unternehmen kaufen können und als Investoren zu 100% tätig sein können.
European Union member states have shown concern over business dealings with China as they demanded equal market access for EU firms.
Chinese companies have full access to the European market when they want to invest in Europe. But unfortunately, this is not the case with the European companies in Chinese market. And this is the reason why European companies' investments to China has decreased. Actually, last year it dropped some 23%, which is the lowest for 10 years. And it's only because of problems in Chinese market or the lack of market access.
India boycotted the Beijing forum, citing serious reservations about the project, particularly regarding China-funded development in Gilgit-Baltistan, a territory under Pakistani occupation.
This would have a bearing on the bilateral relationship in the months and years ahead, because there is a certain symbolism attached to the fact that India is not attending. Even if the Belt and Road is not leading to any substantive results just now, the symbolism has a political and diplomatic dimension.
The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, a $51.5 billion China-led multi-layered infrastructure project, is part of One Belt, One Road scheme. It aims to connect Kashgar in China's western province of Xinjiang with the port of Gwadar in Pakistani province of Balochistan. Though touted by China and Pakistan as a game changer, there has been a relentless wave of opposition to the project from the local population in many parts of the country.
Amid strong opposition to OBOR project, China is willing to spend $500 billion to reshape the world in its image. Now let's move to Nepal, where the highly anticipated first phase of local body election was peacefully conducted. A record 70% of the electorate came out to vote with hope of getting a clean and transparent system. However, it is not going to be a smooth ride for the government in second phase, as the prolonged demand for the passing of the constitution amendment for better representation of Madhesis has not been resolved as yet. We have a report.
People across 34 districts under 3 provinces queued up early in the morning of 14th May to cast their votes to choose their local representatives after a gap of around 20 years. With nearly 70% of the population aged under 35, many were voting for their local representatives for the first time, with the hope of seeing proactive leadership working for the welfare of the society.
ये चुनाव 20 साल के बाद में हो रहा है ना, पहले 2054 साल में हुआ था, अब 74 साल में हो रहा है। अभी सबका मन में क्या है, ये स्थानीय चुनाव है ना, बहुत जरूरी है कि जो अच्छा आदमी चुनना चाहिए, है ना। कि पहला जैसा नहीं है, सांसद का बनाम जैसा नहीं है, या इसमें अच्छा आदमी कौन सा भी पार्टी को होने दो, लेकिन वो आदमी गांव में अभी सब कुछ वोड़ा में करना है, गाँव में करना है, नगर पालिका में करना है, उसके लिए अच्छा आदमी चुनने के लिए अच्छा अपना पार्टी से भी ज़्यादा अच्छा आदमी देखना चाहिए.
From this election, I expect new faces, probably from alternative parties.
The person who can really work for the society, that we are expecting, and the person who really devoted for the, who can work for the society.
The counting for the first phase began on the following day after polling, and the results are awaited. However, some commentators and political parties have been opposing the declaration of the results, saying it would impact the second phase. Although the government didn't face any obstacles in the conduct of the first phase, there are imminent constraints ahead of the second phase, as the protracted issue of constitutional amendment has not been addressed till date. People from the region are out with bike rallies, urging the government to take immediate action.
हमनी के संविधान में जब तक संशोधन ना हुई तब तक हमनी के स्थानीय चुनाव हमनी के ना हो क्या है तो वो अधूरा संविधान में हमनी के कोई हमनी के मधेसी के मांग नहीं थी.
However, the Prachanda-led government, in a historic move, acknowledged the Madhesi movement as a political movement. The strained relations between the government and the Madhesis look far from over.
After an initial breakthrough, the government hopes to successfully conduct the second phase too. However, that seems an uphill task. To talk more on this, we are now joined by Sriram Paudel, a political analyst from Nepal. Mr. Paudel, Prachanda-led government had managed to pacify the disgruntled parties on a condition that it would bring amendment through fast track. And now that it has not been brought, do you see any imminent threat ahead?
If Prachanda-led government committed to the Madhesi-based political party to amend the constitution, and then why he declared that he is going to resign after few days? In that sense, he will left, or he will not been able to pacify all the parties if they are stand on their demands. And it is the matter of coalition government, and it is the proposal, if it is the proposal, common proposal with the consultation of Nepali Congress, then next Prime Minister, who is supposed to be from Nepali Congress, will carry out this agenda. But in particular, Prachanda will not be able to address, and somehow he is successful to pacify the Madhesi-based party's agenda.
Do you believe that government is committed to amend the constitution and it will successfully do it before the second phase?
I doubt, and the sin is before to you, because government has not the sufficient support, that is 2/3 majority, to amend the constitution. There is already comfortable number against the government. In this mathematical situation or head counting, the government, I think, will not be able to table the amendment bill, and it will not be able to pass through this parliament.
Thank you, Mr. Sriram. Now let's move to Bangladesh, which has been facing challenges in dealing with terror outfits. In a major breakthrough, the police busted a hideout of suspected Islamic militants who were armed with suicide vests and machetes near capital Dhaka. We have a report.
Anti-terror police squad raided a newly built house in Benipur village, some 19 miles off the Rajshahi city, and appealed the terrorists to surrender. However, the militants responded in negative and lobbed grenades at forces, which injured the 2 policemen. Militants finally blew themselves up when police tried to enter the house. The 5 militants got killed, including 2 women. The militants had their allegiance with the faction of the Islamic State-linked Jamaat-ul-Mujahideen Bangladesh, the same organization which carried out the deadly cafe attacks in Dhaka in July 2016, killing 22 people. There has been an escalation in the sporadic terror activities across Bangladesh, owing to the growing Islamic radicalization and Islamic State expanding itself in the region in a bid to increase its presence in South Asian countries. However, Bangladesh forces have successfully neutralized more than 70 suspected militants and arrested hundreds since the deadly cafe attacks and have foiled several of their operations.
Even after a constant hunting down of terrorists and proactive decision-making, Bangladesh remains a vulnerable state for the growth of terrorism. We are now joined by Ms. Smruti Patnaik, an expert on Bangladesh. Ms. Smruti, what makes Bangladesh a safe haven for terrorist organizations, including the Islamic State?
I think if you look at the Bangladesh government statement, it does not agree that there is a presence of IS within Bangladesh. The reason they give is that Bangladesh has many homegrown terrorist network, and many of the attacks which has been happening in Bangladesh for quite some time actually is done by this homegrown terrorist network. So therefore, though I personally believe that yes, there are some militant groups which are operating in Bangladesh for various reasons are committing terrorism in the name of IS. For example, the last year Gulshan attack, immediately after the attack on the cafe started, there were certain pictures which were uploaded by AMAC, which was IS website. Giving the details of the attack and also therefore, that actually shows that there is a kind of linkages between some of the groups who are operating in Bangladesh and the IS. But having said that, I would like to say two things, that Bangladesh itself has been facing the problem of radicalization and terrorism since 2005. If you remember correctly, in August 2005, there was countrywide bomb blast. Out of 65 in more than 450 bombs went in the country in almost all the districts except one. So the terrorist threat or the attack on the terrorist attack is not something which is new. So therefore, I would say that terrorism in Bangladesh precedes the what we are seeing right now as the IS threat.
What kind of threats will these outfits pose for South Asia?
I would say that like for example, given the South Asian states share porous border, and there is absolutely not much cooperation between the law enforcing and security agencies of the countries of South Asian region. So it will be very difficult to actually meet the challenge which is posed by the IS terrorist. So therefore, I think though there is this, they may take advantage of the network, the terrorist network which already exists to operate and easily easily attack their target. So therefore, I think it is a threat because of non-cooperation among the states within the South Asian region.
Many liberals and secular people have been targeted lately in Bangladesh. What would be the intention of Islamic radicals behind these targets?
Most of these attacks definitely has been perpetuated by the Islamic radicals who have been operating within Bangladesh. Like for example, the attacks on bloggers and some of the peers and the Hindu minorities, foreigners, is something which has been though it started in 2013 after the Shahbag movement, where the Islamic radicals saw this particular movement as a threat to their ideology. So they wanted to eliminate some of these bloggers who were portrayed as atheists in the Bangladeshi media.
Thank you, Ms. Smruti. Moving on to Afghanistan, where the dreaded militant group Islamic State attacked an Afghan state television station. The attack in the eastern city of Jalalabad was the latest in a series on Afghan journalists and media in recent years.
Islamic State has claimed responsibility for a suicide attack on an Afghan state television, Radio Television Afghanistan or RTA in Jalalabad city. Among the dead were 4 RTA employees, including a driver, a guard and 2 technical personnel, as well as 2 policemen. The attack was the latest in a series on Afghan journalists and media in recent years. It came just a week after it was confirmed that the leader of Islamic State in Afghanistan had been killed in a US drone strike. Incidents of violence have risen since NATO's combat formally ended in Afghanistan in 2014. There are currently about 13,000 US and international troops serving in the NATO mission called Resolute Support in Afghanistan, with Germany, Turkey and Italy as the biggest non-US contributors. Recently, Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull said he is considering a NATO request for more troops in Afghanistan, as US President Donald Trump considers whether to expand the NATO-led mission there by several thousand. Turnbull did not specify the details of the request from NATO's military authorities, which he received during a visit to Afghanistan recently.
We are certainly open to increasing our work there, but we've obviously got to take, look at the commitments of the ADF in other parts of the region and indeed in other parts of the world. But it is very important that we continue, we and our other allies in the effort in Afghanistan continue to work together to build up the capacity of Afghanistan's own security forces so that they can keep that country secure from the threat of terrorism, both ISIL and of course the Taliban.
Australia currently has nearly 300 troops stationed in Afghanistan, training and advising Afghan forces. Afghan forces being trained by their NATO allies have only tenuous control in Afghanistan. Almost 16 years into the intractable war against the Taliban, the remnants of Al-Qaeda, Islamic State and other Islamist groups.
Afghan Journalist Safety Committee AJSC condemned the attack at state television office and said it was a violation of the rules of war that protest media. Now moving on to the land of celebrations, India, where the tribal people of northeastern state of Manipur commemorated the significance of state flower amid display of culture, music and cuisines. We have a report.
Discovered in 1946 by Frank Kingdom Ward, a botanist from the United Kingdom, Lilium macleanisili, which is locally known as Shirui Lily or Kashong Won, is found only in Manipur's Shirui Kashong Peak in the entire world. Situated at the elevation of 1,730 to 2,590 meters above sea level, the rare species of terrestrial lily grown naturally is found only in the upper reaches of the Shirui Hill ranges in the Shirui village of Ukhrul district. Considered as the pride and flower of the state, Shirui lily comprises of 7 colors when seen under a microscope. However, the pinkish flower's beauty lies in its bell-shaped petals. Shirui Lily Festival was open for the public amid a dazzling display of cultural items and modern art and music at Wangayan ground of Shirui village in Ukhrul district of Manipur.
Oh, the village people are extremely happy because this festival was celebrated in a very humble way for 2-3 years back, but today it's turned into a state level festival. We are really happy, especially the all people are giving a blessing to our Honorable Chief Minister and Biren, and everyone knows his name now.
The 5-day-long festival aimed to promote peace and harmony amongst the communities of the state and also bring forth the importance and awareness of the endangered lily species. The amazing mega event witnesses Manipur's Ukhrul rich culture, incredible music, fun outdoor adventure and delicious cuisine of the Tangkhul Naga community.
Festivals in the country are celebrated with great zeal and vigor. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Take care. Goodbye.